Sophia drives a BMW 3 Series. Not the top trim, but close enough that nobody's doing the math in the parking lot. She gets her nails done every 2 weeks at a salon that has its own Instagram page and a waitlist on Saturdays. Her work outfits are always fresh, always intentional, not flashy, but the kind of put together that makes people assume things about her life. Her apartment is in a neighborhood where the coffee shops have exposed brick and the brunch spots require a reservation. Her Instagram looks like a lifestyle brand. Soft morning light. Linen everything. The occasional flat lay of a book she's probably not reading next to a candle she definitely bought for the photo. She looks, from any reasonable outside angle, like someone who has figured it out. Nathan sits 3 desks away from her. Same company. Same salary. Same city. He drives a 2014 Honda Civic with a dent on the passenger door he never bothered fixing because it still drives fine and nobody he respects cares about a dent. He wears the same rotation of maybe 6 outfits, all of them clean, none of them particularly memorable. He packs his lunch in a beat-up container that has been washed so many times the logo on the lid has completely faded. His apartment is in a quieter part of the city, a longer commute, a less impressive address. His Instagram has 47 followers and his last post was a slightly blurry photo from a camping trip in 2023. He didn't even caption it. From the outside, Sophia is winning. From the outside, Nathan is just getting by. Here is what is actually happening. In 5 years, Sophia will have $4,000 in savings. She will also have $28,000 in credit card and personal loan debt that she manages by not thinking about it too directly. Nathan will have $187,000 sitting in investment accounts, growing quietly, compounding without drama. Same salary. Same city. Same 5 years. $183,000 gap. And today I am going to show you exactly where that gap came from, because it did not happen in one big dramatic decision. It happened the way almost all financial damage happens, slowly, in small amounts, in ways that felt completely reasonable and completely normal and completely invisible while they were happening. These are the 10 hidden costs of looking rich, and by the end of this video you are going to be able to calculate your own personal version of this number, and it is going to be uncomfortable, and that discomfort is the most useful thing I can give you. Before we get into the list, I want to give this whole pattern a name. Because once you have a name for something, you start seeing it everywhere, and you stop being able to unsee it. I call it the appearance tax. It is the money you spend not because something serves you, not because it improves your life in any real or lasting way, but because someone might see you with it. Or without it. It is the extra $30 you spend on a restaurant because the cheaper one doesn't have the right kind of lighting. It is the gym membership you keep paying for because canceling it feels like admitting you've given up on something. It is the phone upgrade you didn't need but couldn't quite talk yourself out of because the new one was right there and you'd had the old one for 2 years and somehow 2 years started to feel like a long time. It is the gift you overspent on because you were worried about what the recipient would think of you if you spent less. Researchers have actually tried to put a number on this. The average American spends somewhere around $2,300 every year on purchases that are driven primarily, or at least significantly, by how those purchases will make them appear to other people. Not what those things do for their actual life. Not how those things serve them functionally. What those things signal. And the part that makes this genuinely dangerous, not just mildly wasteful, but financially dangerous, is that most people doing this have absolutely no awareness that it's happening. It doesn't feel like vanity. It doesn't feel like insecurity. It feels like being a normal functioning adult who is simply participating in the world. That invisibility is exactly what makes it so expensive. So let's go through all 10, one by one, and let's do the actual math each time, because the math is the part that moves people from knowing something intellectually to actually changing their behavior. The first cost is the car trap, and I'm starting here because it is likely the single most expensive status purchase that an average person makes across their entire lifetime, and it is so normalized that pointing it out has become almost cliché, which means people hear it, nod, and then keep doing it anyway. So let's slow down and really sit inside these numbers. A new car loses roughly 20% of its value in the first 12 months. Not over 5 years. In the first year. You drive off the lot, and you have already lost thousands of dollars that are gone permanently, that you will never see again, that exist now only as the gap between what you paid and what the car is actually worth. But forget depreciation for a moment, because even that framing lets people off the hook a little. Let's just look at what the monthly reality actually costs. A BMW 3 Series, which is genuinely one of the more modest options in the luxury category, there are dozens of more expensive choices people make, runs around $580 a month in loan payments at a typical financing rate for someone with decent credit. Insurance on a premium vehicle, in most American cities, is going to run you around $200 a month, sometimes more depending on your age and driving history. Maintenance on a BMW is not cheap. These are precision-engineered German vehicles with parts that cost what precision-engineered German parts cost, and the average owner spends around $150 a month accounting for oil changes, scheduled service, and the occasional repair. Add those three numbers together and you are sitting at $930 a month. That is the monthly cost of having that car in your life. Now compare it to a reliable used Honda Civic, fully paid off, zero monthly payment. Insurance on a practical used sedan runs about $90 a month. Maintenance on a Honda is famously low. These cars run forever and the parts are cheap and plentiful, so call it $60 a month to be safe. You are at $150 a month total. The difference between those two vehicles is $780 every single month. That is $9,360 every year. And here is the number that should make you put down whatever you're doing. If instead of spending that monthly difference on the car payment and higher insurance and elevated maintenance, you invested it consistently at a 7% annual return, which is a conservative estimate based on long-term stock market averages, over 5 years you would have accumulated roughly $58,000. $58,000. That is the financial cost of having a car that makes people in the parking lot at work make certain assumptions about your income. Most of those people are also overspending on their cars. They are not thinking about you the way you are thinking about you. The second cost is the wardrobe premium, and this one is particularly effective at hiding itself because it speaks the language of practicality and quality. People who spend significant money on clothing almost universally frame it as an investment in quality pieces that will last. And to be clear, that is sometimes genuinely true. A well-made garment that you wear constantly for years absolutely justifies a higher price. But that is not the majority of what is happening in most people's closets, and if you are honest with yourself you already know that. There is a concept called cost per wear, and it is the only intellectually honest way to evaluate a clothing purchase, and it consistently destroys the logic of buying expensive things you don't wear often. The formula is simple. Take the purchase price and divide it by the number of times you actually wear the item. An $80 jacket that you buy for one specific event, wear 3 times, and then feel slightly guilty about every time you see it in the closet costs you $26.67 per wear. A $30 jacket from a discount rack that you wear 50 times over the next 2 years costs you 60 cents per wear. Which one was the quality investment? Research on American clothing habits consistently finds that the average person spends around $1,800 a year on clothing, and a very significant portion of that, in some surveys, well over a third, goes toward items worn fewer than 5 times. Bought for one occasion. Bought because something about the timing or the sale or the social context made it feel urgent. Bought because the right people would see it at the right moment. The average American closet contains somewhere between 1 and 200 items of clothing. The average person regularly wears somewhere between 20 and 35 of them. The gap between those two numbers is not a storage problem. It is a spending problem wearing the costume of a storage problem. And every item in that gap represents money that left your account and turned into something you don't use. The third cost is what I've started calling appearance dining, and this one is interesting because it is so thoroughly disguised as a normal and healthy social life that calling it out feels almost antisocial. Eating out is not the problem. Eating out specifically, at least partly, to be seen, to be in a certain kind of space, associated with a certain kind of lifestyle, to generate a certain kind of image, even if just in your own head, that is a different category of spending, and it costs a specific and calculable amount of money. There is a pattern that a lot of people in their 20s and 30s fall into where the restaurant choice is not primarily about the food. It is about the aesthetic, the ambience, the neighborhood, the kind of place it is, the photo it produces, the story it tells about the kind of person who eats there. A dinner out for 2 people at this category of restaurant averages around $90, including drinks and the tip you leave to avoid looking cheap. A genuinely good home-cooked meal for 2 people costs somewhere around $8. The gap per occasion is $82. If this is happening twice a week, and for socially active people in cities, twice a week is actually a conservative number, you are spending over $4,200 a year specifically on the experience of eating in places that align with the image you are maintaining. That is not a food budget. That is an appearance budget with food in it. The fourth one catches people off guard because it is invisible by design. The subscription stack. Specifically, the subscriptions you maintain not because you use them and they bring genuine value to your life, but because canceling them would feel like a downgrade, like an admission of something, like letting go of a version of yourself you want to still be. The premium streaming service for the prestige dramas you always mean to watch but haven't actually gotten around to in 4 months. The upscale gym with the heated floors and the nice towels and the smoothie bar you go to maybe once a month and feel genuinely guilty about every other week. The meditation app, the language learning app, the audiobook service, the cloud storage tier you upgraded to without thinking, the premium version of some productivity tool you opened twice and then forgot existed. Studies on subscription spending have found that the average American pays approximately $219 per month across all active subscriptions. And they are actively and regularly using somewhere around 40% of them. Which means roughly $130 a month, $1,560 a year, is quietly leaving your bank account to maintain memberships and services that are doing nothing for your life except existing. Over 10 years, that money invested would be pushing $22,000. For apps you open once a quarter at most. The fifth cost is the upgrade cycle, and by now this one has been discussed so many times in personal finance content that bringing it up almost feels obligatory. But people still do it. Every year. In large numbers. Which means the discussion isn't actually landing the way it should, which means we're probably not looking at it from the right angle. A new iPhone costs around $1,200. The phone you have right now, the one that's a year old, maybe 2 years old, makes calls. Sends texts. Takes photographs that are, in any honest blind comparison, functionally identical to the photos the new model takes for any use case you actually have. The processor is marginally faster in benchmark tests designed to highlight the difference. The camera has a feature you will use twice and then forget about. The battery life is slightly longer. None of these things are changing your life. What the new phone is actually doing is signaling something. It says you're current. It says you're keeping up. It says, in the quiet language of objects, that you are doing well enough that you replace things before they break. If instead of upgrading every year you extended your upgrade cycle to every 3 years and invested the difference consistently over 20 years, that single behavioral change compounds to somewhere around $67,000. From a phone habit. One habit. Number 6 is housing, and this is the one where people push back hardest, because we have collectively built an entire cultural framework around the idea that where you live is a direct and legitimate reflection of who you are and where you are in life. More than almost any other purchase decision, housing carries social weight. The right neighborhood. The right building. The right amount of space. These things communicate status in a way that is deeply embedded in how we talk about adult life, which is exactly why overspending on housing is one of the most expensive and least examined things people do. The housing premium I am talking about is the gap between what you actually need for your daily comfort and functional life, and what you are paying in order to live in a way that matches a certain image. An extra bedroom that has become a storage room and a home office you use twice a week. A neighborhood premium that adds $300 a month to your rent because of the name of the area, not the quality of your daily experience living there. Every extra $200 a month in housing costs translates to $2,400 a year, leaving your account for reasons that have more to do with appearance than with your actual quality of life. Over 10 years, invested, that is approaching $40,000. And for a lot of people, the real gap between what they need and what they're paying is considerably larger than $200 a month. 7 is gift inflation, and it is the most socially coercive cost on this list because the pressure is not internal. It is not coming from your own vanity or your own desire to impress. It is coming from other people, from social expectations that have been quietly escalating for years, from the feeling that showing up with a smaller gift than the person next to you says something about you that you do not want said. Weddings, birthdays, baby showers, holiday exchanges, graduations, housewarmings, the expected spending on gifts in most American social circles has increased significantly over the past decade, and almost nobody talks about it directly, which means the pressure operates entirely underground. People spend money they genuinely do not have on gifts for people who are also spending money they genuinely do not have, in a reciprocal performance that benefits almost no one and leaves nearly everyone quietly poorer. The average American spends around $1,500 a year on gifts. A meaningful chunk of that is not driven by generosity or genuine desire to celebrate someone. It is driven by the anxiety of not wanting to look cheap, not wanting to stand out negatively, not wanting to be the person who gave the smaller thing. The actual person receiving the gift, in almost every case, would rather you be financially stable than receive a more expensive present. But the performance overrides the rational consideration every time. 8 is the beauty and grooming tax, and I want to be precise about what I am and am not saying here, because this one gets misread more than any other point on this list. Taking care of your appearance is legitimate. It has real psychological value. Looking put together affects how you carry yourself, how you feel walking into rooms, how you interact with the world. None of that is under attack here. What I am pointing at is the specific subset of beauty and grooming spending that exists entirely for external consumption, the treatments and products and appointments you would quietly drop if you knew with certainty that no one important to you would ever notice. The manicure that is genuinely about how your hands feel versus the one that is about what your hands look like in photos. The $40 serum that works versus the $160 serum that has better packaging and a name people recognize. The haircut at the expensive place where the stylist knows your name versus the equally good haircut at the place without the Instagram aesthetic. The fragrance you wear because you love the way it smells versus the one you bought because of what it signals. None of these distinctions are absolute and none of them require you to become someone who doesn't care about their appearance. The question is simply this: if nobody could see it, would you still do it? The answer that is genuinely yes, that is self-care. The answer that honestly might be no, that is the appearance tax, and it costs more than the individual line items suggest when you add them all up across a year. 9 is the social activity premium, and this might be the most emotionally complicated one to sit with because it is dressed up as friendship and community and living your life. Every brunch, every birthday dinner reservation, every group vacation that required you to check your account balance before saying yes, every concert ticket you bought because everyone else was going, every night out you attended mostly out of obligation and came home from wondering why you spent that much to feel that way, each one individually looks like a reasonable choice. Together they form a pattern of spending that is quietly destroying financial progress for millions of people who consider themselves social and engaged and present in their communities. People in their 20s and 30s who are socially active in mid to large American cities are frequently spending $3,000 or more per year on social activities, and a significant portion of those activities are ones they attended because the social cost of declining felt higher than the financial cost of going. The fear of missing out. The fear of being seen as the person who always says no. The fear that pulling back from the social spending will mean pulling back from the relationships. Learning to be genuinely selective, not antisocial, not withholding, just honest about what you actually want versus what you feel pressure to want, is one of the highest return behavioral changes available to most people in their prime earning years. The friendships that require you to spend money you do not have to maintain them are costing you in more ways than one. And 10. This is the last one, and it is the one that reframes everything that came before it. This is opportunity cost, and it is not simply another item sitting alongside the other 9. It is the multiplier that takes a series of moderately bad financial decisions and turns them into something genuinely devastating over time. Every dollar you spend on appearance costs is not merely a dollar spent. It is a dollar that will never become the version of itself that compound growth would have created. That is an abstract statement, and abstract statements don't move people, so let's make it concrete. Take $15,000 a year. That is a reasonable annual total for someone who has a few of the habits I've described. Not all of them, not the extreme version of each one, just a moderate version of several of them combined. $15,000 a year invested at 7% annual returns over 20 years does not become $300,000. It does not become $400,000. It becomes $614,000. $614,000. That is the actual, mathematically real price of the appearance tax. That is what Sophia is paying. Not the $28,000 in debt that she can sort of see when she thinks hard about it. The $600,000 in future financial freedom that she is silently trading away, one reasonable seeming purchase at a time, to maintain an image that most of the people observing it are not thinking about as carefully as she imagines. So what do you actually do? Not what should you theoretically do. Not what would a perfectly disciplined person do. What do you do, practically, starting now, given that you are a real person with real social pressures and a real history of these habits? This week, one thing. Go to your closet and do a cost per wear audit on every item you own. This does not require a spreadsheet. It requires honesty. Pick up each item you haven't worn in the last 3 months and ask yourself 2 questions. What did I pay for this, and how many times have I actually worn it? Do the math. Then add up what that pile of underused clothing cost you. Write the number down somewhere you will see it, not to punish yourself, but because the number is real and real numbers change behavior in a way that vague awareness does not. This month, begin tracking your appearance purchases. Every time you are about to spend money on something, pause for 10 seconds and ask yourself one direct question: is any part of this decision being driven by how it will look to someone else? The answer does not automatically mean don't do it. It means be honest about what you are actually buying and why. Track every purchase where the answer is yes, for 30 days. At the end of that month you will have a number. That number is your personal monthly appearance tax. It will probably surprise you. This quarter, take 50% of that monthly appearance tax and set up an automatic transfer to an investment account on the same day your paycheck arrives. Not a manual transfer you do when you remember. An automatic one that happens before you have a chance to spend the money on something else. The automation matters because it removes the decision from the realm of willpower, which is unreliable, and places it in the realm of systems, which is not. Here is where Sophia and Nathan are, 10 years out from where we started. Sophia is still working. Still performing. The BMW got replaced with a newer BMW, because when the lease ended she could not quite make herself downgrade, it would have felt like going backward, and she had already told enough people about the car that stepping back felt complicated in ways she could not fully articulate. She still looks, from the outside, exactly like someone who has it together. Her savings account still does not reflect that. Nathan is 48 years old. His investment accounts have crossed the threshold where work is genuinely optional, not in the sense that he never has to think about money, but in the sense that no single person or employer has the kind of leverage over his life that comes from financial dependence. He does not own a yacht. He does not wear anything impressive. He has a comfortable home and a reliable car and enough invested that other people's opinions about his lifestyle carry exactly 0 weight, because they have exactly 0 power. He travels when he decides to travel. He says no to things without a story or an excuse. He does not spend a measurable portion of his mental energy performing a version of success for an audience that was never as attentive as he feared. That is what financial freedom actually looks like in practice. It does not look like what you see on Instagram. It is not a bigger apartment or a more impressive car or a wardrobe that makes people ask where you shop. It looks like options. It looks like the ability to say no. It looks like waking up on a Monday morning and knowing that if something in your life needed to change, you would have the resources to change it. The wealthiest people you have actually encountered in real life, not on social media, not in advertising, but in the actual texture of your actual life, almost never looked wealthy. They drove ordinary cars. They wore comfortable clothes. They were relaxed in a way that had nothing to do with performance. And the people you know who look the most impressive, who always seem to be somewhere worth seeing, always driving something new, always keeping up, a significant number of them are carrying a level of financial stress that their Instagram would give you absolutely no indication of. You get to choose which of those 2 people you become. And that choice is mostly made in the small, invisible, undramatic moments when no one is watching, when there is nothing to perform, when it is just you and your actual bank account and the quiet accumulation of either habits that build wealth or habits that consume it. If this changed something about how you think about money, not just confirmed what you already knew, but actually shifted something, subscribe. Every single week I break down one money psychology topic. Not tips and tricks. Not budgeting spreadsheets. The actual mental patterns underneath the financial behavior, because that is where the real change happens. I'll see you next week.